In this series, we unpack how Gen Z sells, how buyers have changed, and the strategies that still win today.
Welcome to Pass the Pitch next series discussion, and I wanted to focus on Gen Zers. I often work with clients that are taken back by what Gen Zers value versus what they value. So I get challenged on how sales have changed. And yes, it has. It's an evergreen process. It's always evolving. So today I get a chance to talk to a Gen Zer that has been involved in sales since he graduated university. He now works for an organization where he sells products and services. And so I'd like to dive in and welcome Rob Giuffra to the show. Welcome, Rob.
Hi, Anna. Thank you. It's great to be here. As you just said, my name is Rob Giuffra, and I'm a senior sales specialist at Medidata Solutions. And here at Medidata, we help life science organizations run faster and smarter clinical trials. And we do that by connecting their data, we connect their processes, and we connect their people on one unified platform here.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You know, it's interesting today, Rob, you are wearing a very big hat, right? Because you are going to be representing Gen Z or sales individuals across the globe. So we're going to have fun in our dialogue. I'd like to talk a little bit about getting some practical advice about what works right now. So, Robert, you just shared with us, what you sell and who you sell to, and what's one habit you added since, let's say, 2021, or you can pick another year in the recent 5 years that you are keeping forever because it really works for you.
Yeah, I would say it's one habit that I've begun to do and I've found to be quite useful is to eliminate the spray and pray emails and the cold outreach with no personalization behind it. I think in 2020, prior to the pandemic, buyers really wanted education. And in 2025, they want confirmation. A lot of the buyers that I speak to nowadays, they've done their homework even before they've met you, right? So sales conversations often began with a lot of foundational questions. And now I'm finding, fast forward to 2025, the landscape has completely changed where the information gap is closed. Buyers arrive armed with research. They've probably seen videos of our solution already. They've used AI to research our solution. And what they're looking for is confirmation, proof that their conclusions are right and that our solution is trustworthy.
Right. So I'll have to say, I mean, just to kind of pause a little bit, you've hit on so many great golden nuggets there that are great takeaways for the audience. The spray and pray, love that. Usually, I use the term show up and throw up, right, where you just kind of splatter everything that you can possibly say about your organization, and that never works. So I agree with you 100%. And actually, I think that this is not just a Gen Z thing. I think it spans across all the generations. One topic I do want to mention, or one fact I'd like to illustrate, is that I probably think the Gen Zers have it harder than any other generation out there because for the first time in history, you are selling to 5 different generations. You are selling to baby boomers that are still in the workforce, your millennials, your Gen X, your Gen Y, and your Gen Zers. And if you stay in the business long enough, you'll be selling to the alpha generation also. So therefore, effective communication is so critical. Let me ask you this. If we were to play a little game here, where buyers really are now, let's rank these first meetings and tell me, what you're thinking. Like, so for example, if you got a first meeting because it was some kind of community mention or a partner referral, or there was a short video that the client saw, like you said, the audience is definitely more educated now, or, there are still some people out there that do cold outbound or an in-person event. Which one is your favorite? And then I'll share you mine.
Yeah, for me, I would put community mentions at the top of the list, followed by in person events. Communities, in many ways, are the new inbox. When someone name drops your company, maybe in a Slack group chat, that's a warmer start than 50 cold emails would be, in my opinion. And I would put in person events right behind that for the fact that in my industry, especially after the COVID pandemic, I think a lot of people truly enjoy being at trade shows again, building those in person relationships, and seeing live demos. That's really important, having that face to face connection in sales. So for me, I would say that if I were going to rank them, I would put community mentions at the top, followed by in person events, um, a short video, and a partner referral, maybe at three and four. And then I would put cold outbound at five.
Right. Interesting. Okay. So if I was to rank them, I would probably put in person events first, um, for the same reason that you mentioned. I think people love having the ability to get back in person. I just got back from a conference, and I have to tell you, the energy was absolutely electric. And also, I mean, let's face it, people are a little bit more relaxed at a conference where they are not getting bogged down by whatever fires that are happening in the office. So, therefore, in person events, I would say first. I would probably put partner referrals second. So it's interesting what you said about community mentions. I did not think of it that way. But originally, my thought was partner referrals because that's your warm entree. If somebody of a certain caliber of importance within an organization refers your company, that carries a lot of weight and makes it a warm intro. So great value there with the community mentions. It definitely will make me think about this a little bit differently. Rob, maybe you can share one opener from the last 60 days that got a real reply, and what was the exact line, and why do you think it landed?
An opener that I've used, and it fits into a template that I try to use with most of my openers, would be finding that pain point, or that relevant piece of information that you're looking to speak to about with that persona. And so, for example, if I'm reaching out to a revenue operations leader, an opener that I might use that has worked would say, it would be something along the lines of, I saw your comment about XYZ via LinkedIn, and we just helped another revenue team cut their ticket backlog by upwards of 40%. Would you be interested in comparing notes about that? And the reason that I find a lot of these openers work is because it's situational. It doesn't feel templated, and it's grabbing a relative piece of information that is directly related to what that person does in their organization.
That's great, Rob, because it's all about impact, right? So that one opener, it really hits the impact hard. And it's kind of hard to think that somebody would say, no, I don't want to talk about it. You've done such great work with other companies. I'm not interested in hearing anymore. So that's a great one opener. I kind of approach things a little bit differently in the sense that my one opener, but similar to what you're saying, is usually not 100% work related. I do evaluate what they're commenting on. Have they been quoted in social media somewhere? Is there a company in the news for some reason? So I kind of use some other fact that's going to get their attention and also illustrate that I've done my homework on that particular organization and that particular individual. So very similar in strategy. Rob, let me kind of move a little bit more into the personalization. And you touched that in the last commentary that we were just talking about. How do you make you use a template, but then you personalize it so that it's specific to your audience? Maybe walk us through a simple, now I say 6 touch sequence, it could be 3 touch, 5 touch, whatever works for you, but the difference, like how you would approach a vice president of engineering versus how you would approach a chief financial officer.
Yeah, absolutely. In my role and every other sales role, you're going to have to tailor your messaging depending on who you're speaking to. And so for me, I have a little bit of, I would say it's a 5 step sequence. And if I'm going to speak to a VP of engineering about my solution, I typically try and start off with, to your point, something in the community. Maybe it's a recent round of funding that was announced. Maybe it's just a personalized comment on something that they may be passionate about that I saw after I connected with them. And then after that, I'm going to want to move into some sort of case study or maybe a short LinkedIn comment. And then I will send my email, right? Saw your team was hiring, saw this in the news. Congratulations on the new round of funding. And then for the final part of that, it would look something like a call to action, right? And maybe some sort of question. What does this look like in your stack right now? What are you planning to do with this in the new year? And that's a very different talk track than if I'm speaking to a CFO, for example, where for them it's really going to be a little bit more to the point, a little bit more specifically about cost and risk. And for that sequence, it may start out with an industry report statistic, maybe going right into sharing an ROI point that I've used with other CFOs in my outreach. And to close with, once again, definitely always closing with a call to action, no matter what the persona is. But that call to action for a CFO might look something more like, is this worth a 15-minute conversation? Something to keep it very real, short, to the point.
That's great. And also, I mean, I think I want to draw attention to the fact you mentioned personas. So the importance of knowing your persona, knowing who your ideal client profile looks like, your ideal customer profile. What does it look like? And then being able to change your pitch for that. The personalization component that you've mentioned and the criticality of, how do you fine tune your touch sequence to be able to tailor it either to a CFO or to somebody who's on the business side. So great points. Thanks, Rob. So now let's talk a little bit about, this is one of my favorite subjects. And Rob, I'm not sure if you can relate to this or not, but this spans across all generations, I find. The credibility beats charisma. And what I mean by this is, often as I'm coaching salespeople, one of the things that's my favorite is when I hear a salesperson saying, they love me. They love me. They're going to buy from me. We are like this. This is going to happen. And I mean, as much as I appreciate the wonderful relationship that they might have, at the end of the day, it's a credibility factor. So I would love to hear from you. Tell us about a moment that you earned trust and the action you took and the buyer's reaction, right? So the other thing is, what's your rule for follow through so deals do not drift? And then I'll share a couple of ideas of what I typically talk about.
So for me, I'll start with the follow through rule. To me, it's about a same day summary. Always, no matter what the conversation was, if it was at an in person event, if it was a Zoom call, if 24 hours passes by and there is no summary or thank you note or follow up, to me, that means momentum decays. And so, an example of this, and going back to your point about credibility, is I try to directly link that to transparency because in my industry, most of the time, I am not the only expert on the solution. And it's a little bit of a team sport, as you know, to sometimes get these deals across the line. So in Q2 of last year, I was speaking with a revenue operations leader. And one thing that she told me that I hadn't really heard before was almost admitting, because of my transparency and explaining that we may not be a good fit at the time, that I was one of the only reps that have ever told her that we might not need this solution yet. And I think that transparency and that honesty flipped our script a little bit from them being skeptical about a solution to being more serious, because now we understand their needs and their timelines, and we're still in conversations with them to build the solution that fits their needs, but also we want to fit their timeline goals, and we don't want to sell them into something and provide value with something for a gap that's just not there yet.
I love that, Rob. And you would think that that we just talked about this because you are really you're really stating something that is so critically important to, like, my philosophy as far as when I spend time with salespeople and help coach and mentor them to kind of get to the next level. That trust that you establish by doing that, I have won more business from clients that I have walked away from business by being honest with them and saying, this is not right now. We can't do this right now. We're not the perfect fit for you right now. And that has created an incredible bond with the organization. So I appreciate that. The other point that you made, and I want to make sure that the audience walks away from, is the if you're not communicating within the first 24 hours, you're causing a decay in the deal actually having an opportunity to kind of move forward. When you're not winning, you're losing, right? So the communication is key and having those constant touch points. So I agree with you 100%. Rob, let's kind of do something a little bit fun here. I'm going to say three cold openers, or maybe three statements that might be a subject line in an email that I'm sending a client. And would you open this email, this exchange, or would you delete it? So I'm going to say one subject line is going to say, "Have I got a deal for you? We have at ABC Consulting the following." Would you keep it or delete it?
Um, for me, I think I'm going to delete it. I think that, to me, it sounds a little bit like a car dealership, a little too salesy, right? Leading in a subject line with a deal for something that I may not even know is something that I need. It doesn't add any value to me. To me, I would delete that for the fact that the lingo in it is a little too salesy.
Exactly. I mean, and that was the intent. I exaggerated it on purpose. But anything that sounds, a used car salesman was exactly the look and the image that I was going for with that particular cold opener. What if there's an opener that it has to do with? I'm currently writing an article on this subject, and I know that you were recently quoted at Forbes Tech Council.
Yeah, that's a great one. I'm going to keep it because, to some of our points earlier, that is demonstrating that you've done some research on the organization and you are establishing some level of credibility with that opener. So we're going to keep that one.
Right, right. Do you have an example of an opener that you would keep or delete?
Yeah, I do. I like, a lot of the times, it's very similar to the one that you just provided, where I will try and lead with a piece of news or information, and so an example of that might look like, noticed on LinkedIn that ABC is hiring for remote roles, and our platform helps distributed teams boost productivity and stay connected. Something along that line, just to get that open. And then, to me, what's really going to push that forward, if you're going to get a conversation or a meeting with that individual, is what's going to be inside the email.
That's great. Thank you, Rob. That's perfect. So, as we're wrapping up our first part of our series, I would love to have a call to action to the audience. If you replace one fluffy touch with one helpful artifact this week, please put it in the comment as far as what you tried, and stay tuned because next week we're going to talk about artificial intelligence and the new sales workflow. Thank you so much.